Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm your host for today, the Eradicator, and in this video we'll talk about 5 times genres have merged together to create awesome games. So without further ado, let's get this video started with our number 5. City Builder and RTS. One of the long-time fantasies many aficionados of city builder games have had was to have the ability to control single individuals in their cities and be able to make a difference with them. SimCities 4 did allow us to do just that by allowing us to drive some of our citizens' cars for various missions, but it was very limited and was an option that could be ignored throughout the entirety of the game. As of 2021, it appears that the merger between city builders and macro management is entering a whole new dimension, and I believe that this change is about to be embodied by 2 games that will be released further down the line, and those games are Manor and Frozenheim, which we talked about on this channel a couple of days ago. The link is in the description down below if you haven't watched the video yet. Anyway, in both of these games, you will have to manage a settlement and make it flourish. You will be able to do that through careful planning and the construction that you're going to undertake while developing your settlement and turning it into a thriving city. However, in those games, and unlike other similar games like Banished for example, you will not be alone and there will be rival settlements and even other players that will compete against you for supremacy, meaning that they will try to reach their goals through all means necessary, including lethal force, meaning that you will have to train and build combat units and structures that will not only be able to defend you against their attacks, but also vanquish them, just like you would in any traditional RTS like Age of Empires. Personally, I am a big fan of both genres, and I cannot wait to just try those games as soon as they are going to be made available, and you can be sure that they will be covered here on this channel. Number 4. City Builder and Management. Here is another genre that is popular among city builder fans, and that is everything related to management. And we've started to see some management aspects in City Skylines, for example, in which you get to manage parks, university, and some businesses, but that remains limited and the focus remains building the city itself. However, there is one game that has pushed the boundary further in my opinion, and that game is Transport Fever, and especially its sequel, Transport Fever 2, which was released in 2019, which is where the B-roll footage comes from. And so, in a game like Transport Fever, in which you have to manage almost every aspect of your transportation network, you must also make sure that the cities that will be covered by your network are properly organized in order to ensure its efficiency. And the game does give you the power to do so. And while you cannot actually plop special types of buildings or zones such as industrial, commercial, or residential, you still have full control of your city's layouts. Do you want to destroy an entire neighborhood and reshape it to make it more in line with your railway plans? You can. Do you want to terraform an area and give your cities more land? Well, you can do that too. Do you want to connect 2 cities with an expressway? You can. And the more effective and attractive your designs are, the more population your cities will attract, just like in any other city builder. And there have been players who managed to build some very satisfactory and believable cities that almost rival what you can see on social media regarding City Skylines, which is the reference of the genre at the moment. And as the games we mentioned today keep on gaining popularity and momentum as I'm writing those lines, I am sure that future titles that will cover the genre will push the boundaries even further, and we shall certainly have more exciting games like that in the future. Number 3. RTS and Hack and Slash. Blizzard Entertainment is extremely famous for its successful franchises such as Hearthstone, Overwatch, or Diablo, the latter being the master for decades of the hack and slash genre, so much so that some of its gameplay elements were briefly imported into the other franchise that made the studio's fame back in the days, StarCraft. And that may sound surprising because StarCraft is known first for perhaps being one of the most successful RTS games of all times, mainly due to how basically it created the notion of esport in Korea and then in the rest of the world, but also because of its single-player campaigns, which were fun, epic, and offered varied challenges, some of them moving far away from the traditional aspect of RTS games, which consists of collecting resources in order to build a base that will be effective enough to sustainably attack the enemy. Some scenarios took place, for example, on a much smaller scale, in an underground bunker facility or in an abandoned orbital platform. Overall, these mini-missions not only gave us a taste of Blizzard's know-how of the hack-and-slash genre, but also took the RTS genre to a whole new perspective, forcing players to leave the general macro state of mind they very often needed to adopt into a macro-management approach in which properly managing the individual unit's abilities and statuses was primordial. Number 2. Action, Adventure, and FPS. This is a merger that was bound to happen, as adventure games often include the usage of guns, and I am sure that many of you remember the early Tomb Raider games, which were all at the third person. As much as these games offered plenty of action and excitement, they did not appeal so much to players who have been more accustomed with the perspective of playing at the first person and the immersion that such perspective brings. Sure, there have been a few attempts over 20 years ago with games like the Jedi Knight series, but these were mostly FPS games with FPS levels labeled as adventure games. The PC port of GTA 5 and later Red Dead Redemption 2, however, truly legitimized open-world games played at the first person, going as far as borrowing mechanisms from FPS games such as similar UIs and controls, making it very easy for players accustomed to the latter genre to adapt and be successful. This is perhaps what can explain the success of both of Rockstar's franchises amongst players. And number 1, FPS and Space Sim. And finally, we have the merger of FPS and Space Sim games. Now, this one has been a long time coming, a long-standing fantasy of Space Sim fans for sure, who grew up watching space operas in which the heroes switch between in-cockpit action and on-foot gunfights. Yet, making games that represent what we get to see in movies has been incredibly difficult because it breaks a lot of the smoke and mirror that game developers have had to utilize in order to give the impression that players actually move from ground to ship to then ground again. The latest example being Elite Dangerous Odyssey, which makes you get into your ship via some kind of teleporter placed under the ship, and the reason they are doing that is because they did not model the interior of the ships, just a small part of the cockpit from which you can actually get to see the gray box if you look toward the back of it. Transitioning from on-foot perspective to in-cockpit perspective requires to overcome tremendous challenges, and it appears that the only game that seems capable of doing so is Star Citizen, and this game has been in development since 2012 and is still in its infancy stage with plenty of technical hurdles that still need to be figured out before finally being able to move from an alpha state to a beta state. Now, that being said, I also think that the game is extremely ahead of its time, and the breakthroughs that they are making are going to have an impact on gaming in the decade to come, perhaps more, which is why I believe that there will be more games like Star Citizen in the future, hopefully maybe in the Star Wars universe, or even Elite Dangerous if it gets fleshed out even further. And that's it for this video, guys. Apologies for the delays. This video took a bit longer to make than I had anticipated. I tried to improve the quality of the content here compared to the main channel, which is why I'm more on a it's done when it's done mentality. So if you think I've done a good job, then please don't hesitate to give it a like and subscribe, as it really helps a lot, and it is also very motivating. And I wish you all, guys, a wonderful day. This has been the Eradicator, and I'll see you guys later. This video is brought to you by the people who support this channel on Patreon and via the join button as well. Supporters of the channel get access to lots of cool perks, such as access to my private Discord, your question answered in the show, you get to know when I'm going to play, and also you get to have a chance to influence the editorial line of the channel. Any help is appreciated, starts at just $1 a month. Thank you very much for watching. This is the Eradicator, and I'll see you guys later.
Orbital flight engaged.
629 ready for docking. Just let me know. Prepare for landing.
Warning. High temperature detected.